What if the biggest lie you were ever taught was not about politics, money, or history, but about God, reality, and your own existence? What if the world you were raised to trust is built on a story that was edited, cleaned up, and handed to you in a form designed to keep you obedient, scared, and disconnected from yourself? For a long time, buried under official religion, destroyed books, and carefully managed history, there was another way of seeing all this. That way was Gnosticism. And Gnosticism was never just some strange old belief from the past. It was a direct threat to every system that survives, by telling people to obey first, doubt themselves second, and never ask the deeper question. If this kind of truth matters to you, subscribe and turn on notifications, not as some routine click. Do it like you're choosing to stay awake. Think of those notifications like transmissions, little signals that remind you not to slip back into the sleep this world keeps pushing on people. Gnosticism says something that still hits hard now. It says this world is not what it looks like. It says the power, worshipped by the masses, may not be the highest power at all. It says salvation does not come from blind belief, from repeating the approved words, or from handing your soul over to a structure that claims to speak for God. It comes from waking up. It comes from direct inner knowing. It comes from remembering what you are before the world told you who to be. That alone was enough to make it dangerous. To understand why it was buried, you have to go back to the early days of Christianity, before Christianity became one organized, controlled system. Back then, there were many groups, many teachings, many different ideas about Jesus, God, the soul, and what human life even meant. Among those groups were the Gnostics, and what made them different was simple but explosive. They did not say you needed priests to stand between you and the divine. They did not say truth belonged to an institution. They did not say salvation came from obeying external authority. They said the path was inside you. The word gnosis means knowledge, but not the kind of knowledge you memorize, quote, or borrow from someone else. It means inner knowing, direct experience, personal contact with truth. To the Gnostics, this was the whole point. You were not saved by belonging to the right group. You were saved by waking up from illusion and recognizing your divine origin. That message was way too dangerous for a growing religious empire. Because once people realize they can find the divine within themselves, the whole machine starts shaking. Suddenly, they do not need fear-based control. They do not need middlemen selling them access to God. They do not need to be told they are broken so they can be managed. And that is why the Gnostics were pushed out, condemned, and erased. Their writings were called heresy. Their communities were broken apart. Their followers were hunted down. Their books were burned. But truth has a way of staying alive in fragments, in whispers, in hidden texts, in ideas that keep resurfacing no matter how many times power tries to bury them. One of the biggest moments came in 1945, when ancient manuscripts were found in Egypt near Nag Hammadi. Inside that discovery were texts like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and the secret book of John. These were not small side notes. These were pieces of a whole world view that the early church had worked hard to keep out of sight. And when people finally got to read them, a different picture came into view. Not a neat, safe, approved picture. A disturbing one. A sharper one. A picture that says the official story of God, creation, and human purpose may be deeply incomplete, if not flat out inverted. One of the most shocking ideas in Gnosticism is the creation story. Mainstream religion says the universe was made by a loving God, that the material world is a gift, and that humanity was created to serve and worship its maker. Gnosticism turns that upside down. It says the highest reality is not the God most people worship. Beyond this world, beyond the visible universe, there is a true source, pure divine fullness, often described as the pleroma. From that source came spiritual emanations, beings of divine intelligence called Aeons. They existed in harmony, in fullness, in a reality not broken by suffering and decay. Then came Sophia, whose name means wisdom. In the Gnostic story, Sophia tried to create on her own, apart from the full order of the divine source. And what came from that act was not perfect creation, but a distorted being, a flawed and ignorant power. That being was the Demiurge. The Demiurge did not know the higher source. Cut off from it, blind to what existed above him, he believed he was the only God. And from that ignorance, he created the material world. Not as a perfect expression of divine love, but as a realm of limitation, suffering, confusion, and control. In many Gnostic readings, this is the real meaning behind that jealous creator figure who says, "I am the only God, and there is none beside me." The Gnostics saw that not as the voice of the highest truth, but as the voice of a lesser, blind ruler who mistakes power for divinity. In their view, the God presented in parts of the Old Testament, especially in his harsh, jealous, punishing form, resembles this Demiurge more than the true, ineffable source. That claim alone was enough to make Gnosticism a target forever, but it gets even darker. The Demiurge does not rule alone. He is served by beings called Archons, forces that help maintain the prison of the material world. The Archons in Gnostic thought are not just monsters in some mythic story. They are the powers of deception, fear, confusion, division, and spiritual sleep. They keep human beings fixated on the surface. They keep attention outward. They distort perception. They feed systems of control. And if you step back and look at the world, you can see why this idea has lasted. Fear everywhere, constant conflict, endless pressure, governments demanding obedience, religious systems rewarding submission, economies built on anxiety and exhaustion, status games, manufactured identity wars, distraction layered on distraction. A life so noisy and draining that most people never stop long enough to ask what they really are. That is exactly what Gnostic thought says a prison would look like, not bars and chains in the obvious sense. A prison made of habits, beliefs, desires, fear, and forgetfulness. And in that prison, the deepest tragedy is not pain by itself, it is amnesia. Human beings forget their origin. They forget the divine spark within them. They forget that this place is not the whole story. But Gnosticism does not stop at doom. It says there is something in you the prison cannot fully destroy. A spark. A fragment of the true source. Something older than the world's lies. Something not created by the Demiurge and therefore never fully owned by him. That spark is the reason awakening is possible. It is why some people feel, even in childhood, that something about this world is off. It is why certain truths hit with strange force, like memory more than learning. It is why some people can live inside the system for years and still never fully belong to it. According to the Gnostics, Liberation begins when you recognize the false world for what it is and stop confusing it for home. And that brings us to Jesus, because the Gnostic view of Jesus may be the most explosive part of all. The Jesus most people were taught is a figure of external salvation. Believe in him, submit, and be saved. The Gnostic Jesus is different. He is not primarily a sacrificial figure sent to satisfy a divine system of punishment. He is a revealer, a liberator, a messenger from the true source who enters the prison to wake people up. He does not come mainly to start a religion. He comes to expose the trap. He comes to remind human beings of what they are. He comes to teach them how to see through the illusion and return to the divine fullness beyond this world. In Gnostic texts, Jesus is not focused on building institutions. He is focused on awakening perception. The Gospel of Thomas is one of the clearest examples. Instead of centering miracles, dogma, or church hierarchy, it gives sayings that push the listener inward. One of the strongest ideas there is that what is within you is the thing that saves you, and if you never bring it forth, it destroys you. That is pure gnosis. The answer is not somewhere outside, waiting to be handed down by authority. The answer has to be realized inside. When Jesus says the kingdom is within you, the Gnostics take that seriously, not as poetry, not as metaphor you nod at and forget, as direct instruction. The church structure that later dominated Christianity could not leave that message untouched. Because if the kingdom is within, then control from outside starts losing legitimacy. If human beings can know truth through inner awakening, then priests are no longer gatekeepers. If salvation is self-knowledge in union with the divine, then fear-based religion loses its leverage. That is why, in the Gnostic reading, Jesus was not here to make people passive followers. He was here to wake up people who had forgotten who they were. He challenged religious authorities. He spoke in layers. He gave outer teachings for the crowd and deeper meaning for those ready to hear it. He confronted the structures that made people spiritually dependent. Even the resurrection can look different through this lens. Rather than being only a physical miracle to prove a doctrine, it becomes a symbol of awakening beyond the prison of matter. To die is to die to illusion. To rise is to pass beyond the domination of the false world. That does not make the message weaker. It makes it more personal, more demanding, and honestly more threatening to any system built on dependence. Because then the real call is not, wait to be saved. It is, wake up and become free. This is exactly the kind of teaching institutions try to neutralize, and history shows that they did. In the 4th century, when Christianity moved from movement to empire-backed authority, everything changed. Constantine understood the political power of a unified religion. In 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea helped lock in an official version of Christianity. Certain texts were approved, others were excluded. Certain doctrines were solidified, others were condemned. Jesus, as divine in the institutional sense, was emphasized in a way that supported the structure being built. Teachings centered on inner awakening, direct knowing, and freedom from external authority were pushed out. Sin, dependence, obedience, and official mediation became central. This was not just theology, it was power. A human being who thinks he is fundamentally corrupt and needs authorized approval to approach God is easier to manage than a human being who knows there is a divine spark in him and begins testing every voice that claims authority over his soul. After that, the suppression got harsher. Gnostic texts were destroyed. Gnostic teachers were called dangerous. Alternative spiritual paths were branded as heresy, sorcery, or rebellion. Mystical experience itself became suspect unless it served the approved order. The result was massive. The Church became the official gatekeeper of salvation, and generations were raised inside a frame where obedience looked holy and inner knowledge looked dangerous. But the current never fully died. It kept leaking through history. You can see traces of it in movements like the Cathars in medieval Europe, who also saw the material world as deeply corrupt and rejected church authority. You can see echoes in Bogomil teachings in the Balkans. You can see pieces of it in Hermetic thought, alchemy, mysticism, and secret traditions that kept insisting the real work is inner transformation, not outer conformity. Even some esoteric societies, including parts of Freemasonry, claim to preserve fragments of lost wisdom through symbols, initiation, and layered teaching. Whether every such claim is true is another question, but the pattern is clear. Again and again, the same idea survives. Truth is hidden, the world is not what it seems, and liberation requires awakening, not mere obedience. That is why Gnosticism still matters now. Because the old forms of control did not disappear, they got smarter. Instead of openly burning books, the modern world buries people under noise. Instead of executing heretics in the town square, it discredits dangerous ideas by mocking them, flattening them, or drowning them in junk. Instead of only using religion, control now comes through media, consumer culture, political theater, algorithmic distraction, economic pressure, pharmaceutical dependence, identity management, and non-stop mental overstimulation. You do not need chains on your wrists if your attention has already been captured. You do not need a priest in a robe if your beliefs are being shaped every hour by screens, institutions, influencers, and fear loops. The result is the same. People stay externally focused, spiritually numb, divided from each other, and cut off from deeper knowing. Look at modern life honestly. Most people are overworked, under-rested, constantly distracted, and quietly hollowed out. They chase money because survival requires it. They chase status because they were trained to measure worth that way. They chase stimulation because silence makes them uncomfortable. They absorb one outrage after another. They build identities around labels handed to them by systems that profit from fragmentation. Then they call this freedom. The Gnostics would look at that and say, this is how the prison maintains itself. Not by telling you it is a prison, but by making the cell feel normal, necessary, and even desirable. And what is wild is that parts of modern thought sometimes sound closer to Gnosticism than people realize. Simulation theory says reality might be a constructed environment. Quantum ideas keep raising strange questions about observation, matter, and the nature of what is real. Consciousness studies still cannot cleanly reduce human awareness to matter the way strict materialism wants to. Near-death experiences and mystical states keep reporting encounters that do not fit the flat physical model. None of this proves Gnosticism in a simple way, but it does show something important. The surface story of reality is less stable than we were told. The world may be deeper, stranger, and less material than the official script likes to admit. If that is true, then Gnostic language about illusion, hidden structures, and awakening does not feel so easy to dismiss. Somewhere in the middle of all this, stop for a second and say what you really think. Not the polished version, not the safe version. Drop a comment and make it count. Not like you're leaving content feedback, more like you're drawing a line. Say what hit you hardest. Say what part of this already felt true before you had words for it. Treat that comment like a mark, a signal, a public act of standing on the side of what is real. Because sometimes the first honest thing a person says out loud is the first crack in the illusion. Still, understanding the trap is only the beginning. A lot of people can sense that the world is false in some way. That alone does not free them. You can see the cage and still live in it. You can talk about awakening and still be driven by fear, vanity, and programmed habits. This is where Gnosticism gets practical. It says, liberation is inner work, not passive waiting. Not arguing endlessly online. Not building a new identity around being awake. Real awakening means unlearning. It means pulling apart the beliefs that were planted in you. Religion may have taught you that you are fundamentally broken. Materialism may have taught you that you are just chemistry. Society may have taught you that your worth comes from output, image, and usefulness. Politics may have taught you to live in permanent reaction. Consumer culture may have trained you to confuse desire with purpose. All of that has to be questioned, not once, over and over. Why do I believe this? Who benefits if I keep believing it? What fear is attached to it? What happens if I stop obeying it internally? Then there is detachment. This is not about running away to a cave or pretending the world does not exist. It is about refusing to let the system own your mind. Fear loses power when you stop feeding it. External validation loses power when you stop building identity around it. Materialism weakens when you stop treating possessions like proof of self. Propaganda weakens when you stop reacting on command. The system feeds on attention, emotional charge, and unconscious obedience. Pull those away, and something changes. You begin to move differently. You still live in the world, but you stop belonging to it in the old way. Then there is direct inner practice. Silence matters. Meditation matters. Reflection matters. Honest self-inquiry matters. Dreams, intuition, symbols, deep prayer, hidden texts, and interior confrontation all matter. Not because any one method is magic, but because awakening requires contact with levels of yourself the surface world keeps covered up. The Gnostics were clear on this. Truth is not mainly gathered as information. It is realized through transformation. You do not just collect new ideas, you become different. And that means something has to burn away. False identity, borrowed beliefs, performative morality. Fear of disapproval, addiction to noise, dependence on systems that tell you what to think and who to be. This is painful work. That is part of why most people avoid it. It is easier to stay asleep and call it realism. It is easier to mock what threatens the structure of your life. It is easier to defend the cage than risk stepping outside it. But this is also why awakening has always spread quietly, person to person, through recognition more than persuasion. You do not force it on people, you live it. You ask the kind of questions that stay with them. You speak in a way that touches something they already know deep down. You find others who are serious, Community matters because isolation makes control easier. A person alone can be gaslit by the whole system. A few people who see clearly become much harder to manipulate. And before ending, there is something else that needs to be said, because this whole idea of illusion is not just abstract philosophy. It shows up in daily life in ways almost everyone can feel if they are honest. Think about how many people spend years living by a script they never chose. Go to school, learn what to repeat, pick an identity, get credentials, work until you are numb. Buy things to reward yourself for the numbness. Scroll because silence feels uncomfortable. Keep performing health, success, confidence, normalcy. Meanwhile, the inner life dries out. Relationships get thinner, attention gets weaker, the body is present but the person is barely there. A lot of people are not living. They are managing stimulation, debt, anxiety, and expectation. That is not freedom. That is domestication with better branding. And the worst part is that people start defending the very pattern that is draining them because they are terrified of having no script. That is how deep the conditioning goes. Real awakening often starts small and ugly, not dramatic. It might begin when someone notices they have not had one original thought in months, or when they realize every major decision they made was based on fear, approval, or habit, or when success finally arrives and still feels empty, or when loss strips away the performance and they see there was no real center underneath it. That moment matters, because the crack in illusion is usually personal before it is cosmic. First, you notice your own life has been built around false things. Then you start seeing the same pattern in family, culture, religion, politics, and media. Then the scale widens. Then you start asking whether the whole structure runs on manufactured sleep. This is why practical awakening matters more than collecting big mystical ideas. It means learning how to sit in silence without reaching for distraction. It means being honest about your motives. It means noticing when fear is making your choices for you. It means refusing to let outrage become your personality. It means consuming less, reacting less, and observing more. It means protecting your attention like it is sacred, because it is. It means choosing truth over comfort in small moments, not just dramatic ones. It means checking whether your spiritual life is real or just another identity costume. It means asking whether your routines are making you stronger, clearer, and freer, or just more adapted to the machine. It also means accepting that waking up can cost you. Some relationships may change. Some ambitions may fall apart. Some beliefs you loved may die hard. Some versions of yourself will not survive the process. That is normal. You cannot leave a false world without losing attachment to false things. But what comes back in return is harder to fake. A quieter mind, a cleaner sense of direction, better instincts, less need for approval, less panic, more discernment, more inner authority, a stronger ability to feel when something is off, even if everyone else is applauding it. That alone is a kind of liberation. And maybe this is the most practical point of all. Even if a person does not accept every metaphysical claim in Gnosticism, the core warning still lands. Be careful what rules your mind. Be careful what story you accept about yourself. Be careful with any system that tells you dependence is holiness, distraction is freedom, or conformity is sanity. Be careful with anything that keeps you from direct contact with what is deepest and most real in you. Because once that contact is broken, almost any lie can be installed. But once that contact is restored, control starts slipping. That is why this matters in real life, right now, not just in ancient texts. The prison survives through unconscious living. The way out begins with consciousness. Once you see that, you cannot unsee it. That is why the final step is not just understanding the illusion, it is refusing to keep feeding it. You break free by seeing clearly, by unlearning lies, by withdrawing energy from false systems, by reconnecting with what is divine inside you, and by living in a way that makes deception harder to land. Most people will not do this. That is just true. Most people will protect the familiar story even when it is crushing them. They will laugh at deeper truths because ridicule feels safer than transformation. They will choose comfort over freedom and distraction over reality. But a few people will remember. A few will feel something ancient wake up in them. A few will realize this world, as presented to them, is not the final truth and never was. A few will understand that the light in them is older than the systems trying to shape them. Those are the people who change everything, even if quietly at first. If this hits something real in you, subscribe and turn on notifications, not as a favor, as a signal. As your way of saying you'd rather hear the transmissions than be lulled back to sleep by the usual noise. And before you leave, put your words down in the comments like they matter, because they do. Don't leave some empty one-liner. Leave a mark. Leave a sentence that sounds like a vow, a sign, a moment of standing in public with what you know is true. Say what this opened in you. Say what part of the illusion you've started seeing through. Say it plainly. That kind of honesty is its own form of awakening.